كلنا للوطن. كلنا للوطن translates for us, Laura.
All of us for the country.
For the country, Mumtaza, for the nation. And ahlan wa sahlan. There'll be some Arabic today, so make sure you're situated next to it. You're good. You got a good one. Sarah, you help Julian, okay? And Markaz. So I want to tell you how happy I am that finally Stanford is doing something about what's going on in Lebanon, because there's so much going on in other campuses and so much going on in the Bay Area, and I was feeling like, why aren't we doing anything here at Stanford? And then, lo and behold, ASAS contacted me. Do you guys know ASAS? The student group? Yes, you give yourselves a hand. You guys are awesome. ASAS actually is an acronym, right, for Arabic students at Stanford, but ASAS itself in Arabic means foundation, the very basis, and so what a great acronym that actually means something in Arabic. And of course, every ASAS kid becomes immediately my kid. So they're all here after a long day. Shukran for coming. And so I was asked to, talk about, the situation in Lebanon, and there's I have to do some full disclosures first, because one, I did not want to do this without young people around me, because there's no way my generation is going to take credit for what this generation is doing. You guys rock, you are the future, and you kind of brought us out of our graves. We had given up. We were like, when people say there's a solution to everything except the Middle East, well, maybe there will be a solution for the Middle East, and it may start for Lebanon, inshallah, because so far it has been a very positive, very optimistic feel. I have never seen my friends, especially the Arab friends, especially, and Lebanese friends on Facebook agree so much. There's so many likes on when you put something about Lebanon now. It used to be you put one thing, and people would say, yes, but is this like a Sunni perspective or Shia, and then you get into that. And I'm like, can we look at the Lebanese flag and consider Lebanon to be, bidun ta'ifiyya? Why are people in Lebanon always thinking in terms of religion and sects and backgrounds? Well, some of it has to do with the laws that we were born into, and then unfortunately you kids inherited some of that, right? You rose above it, alhamdulillah. So for full disclosure, I was born and raised in Lebanon, in a place called Hazmiye, and I had the most amazing childhood, I have to tell you. So you have to guess, pre-war, right? Pre-1975, and I was born in the 60s, and then I had a beautiful childhood in Lebanon. But there was always, this kind of unspoken thing about, what is your religion, what school do you go to, etc. But still, it was a beautiful childhood. And then 1975 comes, and this beautiful Lebanon, what did they used to call it, Paris of the Middle East, and things like that, turned into the ugliest place on earth. It was heartbreaking for me as a child. I was 12. Suddenly people are like, "Anta Muslim or Masihi?" And not only that, it's I happen to be Masihi, so they were like, "Maruni," and it became like that within that. And then, also, what is your background and your lineage? And then Beirut became East Beirut and West Beirut. Luckily, and this is where the full disclosure comes, luckily my parents put us in a car in a panic, and I remember sort of literally driving through, rubble, and went to Jordan. And so I ended up staying in Jordan 4 or 5 years, which is Jeff why. When I speak to you, sometimes you go, you have 100% Lebanese accent. But then when I speak to Salwa, when I speak to Urduni, they say you have Lebanese, so let's just call it Lebanon.
You had it all.
والمغربي كمان والجزائري وينه نحن we have students من الجزائر ومن المغرب والمشرق اليوم إن شاء الله, and my amazing students who schlepped over here. So the first thing I want to just talk about very quickly, I'm not going to bore you with history because I want this to be an uplifting event, and wait till you see the videos that Jeff chose for you. Some are really, tear-jerking, but some are funny, and I think part of this revolution in Lebanon is the sense of optimism. It's revolution, Lebanese style. It's also maybe the Arab Spring 2.0. So we'll see what's going to happen. So far, I'm optimistic. Are you optimistic, Siraj?
I am.
So far, so good?
I am.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's gonna be perfect, nothing's gonna happen overnight,
It's not
but
gonna be
so
easy for
far,
sure, more
right?
times.
I mean, the people who have given up on politics are doing that. So let's go to the next one and talk a little bit about, you know, the type of government that Lebanon has. I know many of you hear this, you don't quite understand that, like, by law, let's go to the next one. The president must be a Maronite Christian, the prime minister must be a Sunni, the speaker of the parliament has to be a Shia. So, you know, in a way, initially, the way I grew up, we were told that was a beautiful thing because then everybody is represented in the government. You know, nobody is like, doesn't have representation. But then I realized, oh, this is really screwy. You're not voting for the best person for the job. You end up voting along sectarian lines. You end up looking at the other as your competition, the other instead of your brother. And so this is what defines, I think, the Lebanese revolution, protests, whatever you want to call them. It's been peaceful, and it's seeing all these different sects holding hands and walking in the street, and you know, a Lebanese young woman wearing the hijab with a Lebanese young woman who's, you know, looks so Western that within her Chanel or whatever, and it's like, you know, and there's just no difference at all. And I think you guys have really given us the reason to keep hoping. Thank you for that. And just being here is part of this momentum that will keep going. So yeah, this is, I mean, so we're at, I don't know. You know, technically, I think we should go like
Here is
this.
not. He might come back.
But for now, can we cross him out? بنشوف what's going to happen. Let's go to the next slide, Jeff. And you know, in terms of Lebanese independence, I mean, I guess, you know, my generation, we were thinking independence meant something different. Independence from the French, independence from the Ottoman Empire. I mean, you know, we could go back quite a bit, but what year did Lebanon get its independence? 9, 4, 3. And what month? This month, November, and what day, Sarah? Are you saying 22, Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So Sarah's vision is mine. And so, you know, it's kind of also some interesting that Independence Day is coming this year. I remember the last couple of Independence Days, a lot of Lebanese would say, we're not in the mood to celebrate independence. It's what independence. I think this year with the mood might be different. Like the word independence is really gaining the momentum. But again, I tried to, like when we did the slides, I tried to keep the websites, you know, and for you. This is a great website if you want to delve into the history of Lebanon and the independence, including like archival pictures that you wouldn't believe. Like I'm looking, going, that could be my mother, you know, back in the day. Okay, Jeff, we'll move on. So basically, I think these are the events or the years that at least marked my life. I mean, if I was going to give you a chronological, historical perspective, we'd be here forever. And I want to get to the good part, and I want to get to the actual what's going on now. But I think this is because, you know, Ramzi at 12, leaving Lebanon, and then we didn't really return. We went to Jordan, and I came to the US. So basically, my memories of Jordan, of Lebanon, remain beautiful. But I know my Lebanese friends and many family members stayed, and they go, oh, you weren't there in the 80s, you didn't see anything. In a way, maybe I'm looking at it through these optimistic eyes, but I think maybe لبنان مش رح يرجع، لبنان عم يرجع. And I do have to mention that one of the highlights tonight will be a poem by an amazing poet. She's here today. She's written a poem about freedom. Wait till you hear that one in Arabic. It's going to be a premiere. Her name is Salwa Ghamrawi. She's here. And also, she's at the, hey, this is the new applause from Jean Jdid. Hey, I'm like, shoot, why did that? Anyway, صرنا نعرف. Number 2, Muhammad Joseph, who did these beautiful, look at this handwriting.
Who wrote all the
shi'arat. Yeah. I mean, look at that handwriting.
It's great.
Hey, Jeff, if you want your name and calligraphy that you want a tattoo, go to Muhammad.
The first time I did it, it says
since 1974.
Wow.
He hasn't-
For today.
Yeah,
You see
he
how
hasn't
you've
finished any
resurrected the
Arabic since
dinosaurs?
1977.
Where we're like back and we're ready to like, you know, get back in action. Shukran for that. Anyway, 75. And then of course the Lebanese were technically, and I get off with ended in quotes in 1989. And I don't know if you've heard of the Taif. You know, that's kind of, it was a brokered peace. And yeah, at the time in '89, now we were really like happy that the war ended, but nothing was really fixed, and you knew it wasn't gonna last. So I think with the roots of what we're seeing today goes back to Lebanese independence from the previous slide, through the Lebanese Civil War, through the Taif Agreement, and then of course we come to, you know, I skipped a lot, and then I skipped a lot, but then I didn't, you know, and we come to January 2019, which has, you know, the present government. And when the present government, I think you can go to the next one, Jeff. I think when the latest government was elected after many months, do you guys remember, like Lebanon had no president for 9 months. People were like, you come from a country that has no president for 9 months? Like, how would
No, it's for
Yeah.
It was
2
more-
years and a half.
Yeah, it did.
Sometime almost.
Not
Not 9 months, 2 years and a half.
It ended up being 2.5 years. Thank you, Sarwa.
Sorry.
Habibti, please, and by the way, this is what I was saying, is I'm not a PhD in political science or history. I am an Arabic professor in literature, poetry. I have a radio show in music. And that's why I think, Jeff, you're going to like my second half a lot more than my first half of this. سلوى عن جد ساعديني إذا عندك أي معلومات بأي وقت, please. Okay, so with the present, you know, government, this is at Hariri, and he vowed, and I remember hearing this, oh, we're going to change things, we're going to get rid of corruption, you're going to have running electricity all the time, the garbage crisis is going to go away. And I wanted to believe it, but honestly, I felt like, oh God, I mean, I've lived much longer than you guys. And so I've seen this, I've heard this, so I wasn't like that excited. I was, you know, I was optimistic, inshallah, inshallah, inshallah. But you know, I didn't get out of my seat and come to the Markaz and do a presentation, you know. So this time I am, shows you is that we're, you know, I think Muhammad and Awiyah were the same generation, so you know what I'm saying. Anyway, let's go to the next slide. This is part of the problem that we're, you know, why are people in Lebanon, what do they want, what are they, you know, fighting for? And I think, you know, the economy, and look at the debt that Lebanon has incurred, and all this money comes in billions of dollars and they disappear, and suddenly the rich are getting richer, the elitists, the few, you know, have their Swiss bank accounts and everything, and then the rest of the people aren't just where they are, they're falling more and more and more to a degree where it's like, either we go out in the street, no, you know, I don't care what happens, and I think we got there, and I think it's painful to think of these kids in Lebanon. I think it's painful to think of how they grew up so far. I think it's painful that the only option was to go down in the street and say, I'm not going to use a bad word, but blanket. And so, you know, and even a lot of the shi'arat have these really potent cuss words that I won't repeat, but honestly, I think that's the revolution of this. It comes from the street. There's no Fusha, Niles. Niles is studying Fusha. We're going to have to bring him down to Amiya, street Arabi, real Arabi, inshallah. Anyway, so you can see how much it has risen. Let's go to the next one, Jeff. So the first reason, I think, was the economic debt, the lira, which is so devalued, you know, so many times in the past 10 years. You use dollars everywhere, but you don't realize that you're not using your own currency and how that could hurt you. The second reason is, of course, this.
Garbage.
The garbage crisis. Who's heard of that? I think you could write a poem about that. We've got poet Maya Salami in the room, by the way. Listen to my interview with her. It's online. You will be really floored. Anyway, so yeah, the garbage crisis. I mean, you know, to think of a country like Lebanon, we're supposed to be a civilized country who by the Mediterranean. You know, we've got all these sects technically living together, and then to have this, you know, to have tourists come and to have the residents have to smell garbage in this day and age. I think people, you know, how are you going to translate that, Jeff? You stink. You stink. You know, that was a movement called You Stink, you know. طلعت ريحتكم لينا ما بعرف بالسعودي فهمتيها. طلعت ريحتكم. So basically that caught on, like the hashtag طلعت ريحتكم. I remember our March meeting with hashtag طلعت ريحتكم in solidarity with the Lebanese people. That was back then. It's still not quite resolved, but at least I think that was part of the momentum. As people were like, think of that, the electricity that we got. And so let's go to the next one, Jeff. And, you know, mess with garbage, mess with electricity, mess with refugees coming in by the millions, poor refugees who really, really are so disenfranchised and so oppressive coming into Lebanon, but there's also such a pressure on Lebanon. How do you accommodate these refugees? All of that was happening and brewing, but sometimes it takes that شو بيقولوا الحبة اللي
الشعرة التي قصمت ظهر البعير.
ايه اللي قلنا بالعربي.
الشعرة التي قصمت ظهر البعير.
And in English, the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
Hey, Heidi, and what was that straw? That just that. When you got to that, it is just, you know, people can think anymore. The government like suggested putting a tax on WhatsApp. Well, if you know anything about the military, all we do is we use WhatsApp. It's the only free thing we have that's not taxed. And so I think it was even they're going to impose it on Skype as well. So that to tell you how people were like really, they were at the breaking point already, and then to start thinking I'm going to have to pay to use WhatsApp to say hello to my friends, you know. So I think that contributed. I know it's funny, or things like a little tax on WhatsApp could lead to a revolution. But you've been in Jordan, where you're not using WhatsApp left and right. Imagine if somebody came and said, we're going to pay for that suddenly. And that's Jordan. So anyway, I think it's kind of funny that there were these headlines about, wow, the WhatsApp tax led to a revolution. We all know that's not true. We know that it was the final catalyst. But it did play a role where, like you say, what else is left to tax us? I mean, there's nothing left for you to tax. And yet, where are these taxes going? Where are we getting the services? Are we getting them? You know, they just... وين راحوا الملايين يا جاف؟ And hopefully we're going to find out. I think this is part of the movement, is to say, where has the money gone? Let's try to get it back. Let's see, let's have accountability, you know. So we'll see about that. Let's go to the next one, Jeff. And I like this, I mean, in terms of the blogs. I like this blog, not that you can ever like go to one blog or one blogger and say they're objective. But this guy, Gino Raidi, he tends to be on the ground. So, you know, you don't want to really go to the mainstream media for coverage of Lebanon, or if you do, go to like a whole spectrum of media, because each one has an agenda. Of course, in America, I mean, I'm watching the news. I watch the news sometimes, you know, I'm flipping through. There's no mention of Lebanon. There was a mention of Baby Shark, but that's to come. That actually caught on. Yeah. But the demonstrations themselves were very, if you don't know what I'm talking about, yeah, you will in a moment. Anyway, so I mean, to me, I was trying to get the sources for tonight. First of all, I'm not speaking for them. It's them. It's you guys. It's the youth that is doing this. I'm not taking any credit, but like Gino's blog, I think is one of those where he really does, you can see the pictures, the videos, and he blogs very well. So if you want, I mean, I don't know him, it's not an endorsement, but certainly it's one of those blogs by a young Lebanese man who's living there and who's experiencing this in the shara, in the street. Okay, let's go to the next one, Jeff.
If you want recommendations of good blogs to read to get some info, I can also give you some.
Say that again, Jeff.
I was just saying, if you want more recommendations of blogs and like young people writing about these things, I can give you some recommendations.
Yes, and I did. I mean, I've been trying, even like Facebook, you know, people who don't necessarily even have a blog but are there and like streaming, you know. But definitely Jeff and I mean, and anybody else, we should make like a list. And like, you know, Siraj can bring his sources and then we can have a nice extensive thing. Jeff and I started a YouTube playlist. I think we can make it public, right, Jeff? So that people can actually add anybody in the room. or keep it updated. So we go from everything I talked about to that led to this. And this is what, like in October. And suddenly, look, these are people, Lebanese people. They're in the street, they're everywhere. This, I have to say, these pictures were taken by Ramzi Salti, who is a very talented Lebanese photographer. He takes awesome pictures. He took beautiful pictures of Lebanon before this, meaning the cedars and all this. But now he's on the ground taking these amazing pictures. I also should mention the fires that happened that also, would be a topic of their own, in terms of the burning of all the cedars. I mean, that was also happening while people had no electricity. Anyway, so I like this picture because it really captures, I think, a moment in history. It made me really want to go there. People were like, I'm canceling my flight to Lebanon. There's just a lot going on there. Are you crazy? You're going to miss the best moments in history just to be there, So yeah, a lot of people canceled, but a lot of people...
I have quite a few friends who flew in.
Who flew in?
For that.
Right.
Yeah.
I looked for tickets, but also...
They're too expensive. I looked for the
It was, yeah. I mean, we're a bit too far
You get your
here.
degree from Stanford and then go change Lebanon for us. We don't need your tickets anymore. Plus, I mean, I think what we're doing here is really what each of us can do. What people say, what can we do? Do a teaching, speak to friends, okay, so let's go to the next picture. Look, there's more of Ramzi Salti's photography. I really like this one. You can see.
Very artistic.
ما أحلاه شايف الصور تصوير رامي رزق تذكري اسمه. And so this is a church and this is a mosque.
It's a message.
And it's right next to each other. So like to pick this spot to demonstrate and protest, and people just I love this picture. I think مش بيقولوا a
It's
picture is
sending
worth
message
1,000
that Christian and Muslims are together.
are together, not only emotionally and spiritually,
also
but
physically.
physically, right? Geographically, that meant I love
Physically.
that. Hey, Jeff, بدنا صورة إلك واقف هيك بين الكنيسة والمسجد with a drone.
With a drone.
Yeah, with a drone. Anyway, let's go to the next one, Jeff. This is it at night. So it's like, I don't know how people are doing it. يعطيهم 100,000 عافية الشعب اللبناني. لأنه they are doing it day and night, and usually you get tired after a few days in the street, and you want to go back, and these are not people who have savings, or, we're talking about the real people, and yet it's, well into the night, and they're there, and I guess, they took like a little time off to go shower and eat or whatever, and people are like, oh, it's over. It wasn't over. They came back, and it's like, it's still going on. So that's Beirut at night right now, and these, again, are people. I remember these. These were semi-deserted streets at a certain hour. Okay, Jeff. And so now I'm going to give the credit to Jeff. He was like, he tried to find a video that would capture, in 2 minutes or less than 2 minutes what's going on. في الشارع, so you guys, those who can read Arabic, haki is like kalam. Haki shawara is like street talk. Normally street talk would be something like that the elite would look down on, like that's haki shawara. No, we're like haki shawara. No, it's very subversive. So let's watch this. It's going to be بالعربي, but I think you're going to understand from the messages. شكرا جزيلا.
طلاب وعمال وموظفين وموظفات من قدام مصرف لبنان انطلقنا بهيدي المسيره اليوم لرياض الصلاح. المسيره كثير مهمه من مصرف لبنان لرياض الصلاح، كمان حشد الناس اكثر بالشوارع، كمان نتحرك.
اليوم نازل حتى اقول لك بعثوا لنا ايميلز جاوا على صفوفكم قال لهم لا نحن حنرجع على صفوفنا.
أنا من حلوة أمريكان، جينا لهون نطالب بتغيير الوضع بلبنان، نحن شباب ما بدنا نهاجر.
أنا أول ما بلش هذا الشيء ما كنت مشجع على الانضمام، لأنه من بعد الانتخابات النيابية اللي صارت بلشت كنت عم بفوت كثير الأمل بلبنان. ثاني نهار شفت إنه عن جد فاق الشعب هالمرة، وحسيت إنه عن جد يمكن اللي كان بديهم مطالبة هالمرة حترجع تتحقق.
So if you couldn't speak Arabic, these were young people that were were saying, you know, in the beginning, we were also disillusioned. We weren't going to go down to the street. I mean, that kid was like, you know, disillusioned. What was he, like 18? Imagine being 53 and have everything I've seen in Lebanon come and go. But even at 18, he felt disillusioned in the beginning, and then he goes, and then I decided to go down. Was nominated for an Oscar last year. It won at the Cannes Film Festival, and that movie was about misery. It was about a child. It was about refugees, and so I think she earned her place on camera in this one. Yes. She was not one of those Johnny-come-latelys. You know. Okay, let's go to the next one, Jeff. And I love this because of the ages, you know.
العراق في كل دول
عربية. That's another thing. I mean,
yeah, so maybe you should have series of you know nice.
Yeah, for the Iraq, you'd have to bring somebody, I think, from Iraq.
Yes, there's people for every country here. There is people for Iraq, for Iraq, for everyone.
لا ما في حدا عراقي.
Not here.
أنت عراقية؟ أي.
Yes.
خلاص. No, but it's very interesting to see how they're feeding off each other. You know, like Spring 2.0, what's going on in Iraq now? Is it influencing Lebanon and vice versa? You know. And I'm going to stay on this positive note and not say what happened to the first Arab Spring, because maybe it never really ended. It just turned into an Arab winter that's now going back into better weather. We shall see.
اللي عملوا ثورة انتفاضة لتشيلي لكتالونيا لإفريوير. تحية لكل الأحرار بالعالم. على الشارع نزلوا من كل الأعمار. ثورة عم تهتف حناجر الأحرار. الشعب الغاضب والمنتفض افترش الساحات. صرخة وجع وجوع طالع من قلوب الآباء والأمهات بتنادي برحيل السلطة الفاسدة وكل الساسة والزعامات. لا إسلام ولا مسيحية، لا إسلام ولا مسيحية، نحن بس لبنانيين، بيكفي طائفية. سرقتوا مالنا وعمرنا وأحلامنا، رحلوا شبعنا ذل وطائفية. حقنا نعيش بكرامة ونحصل على حقوقنا المعيشية الأساسية. حقنا نعيش بكرامة ونحصل على حقوقنا المعيشية الأساسية. عم يولد لبنان، عم يولد من جديد وطننا لبنان، عم يولد من جديد وطننا لبنان حتى يعمر ويدوم البنيان ويبقى أرض الحرية والإنسان، لا طائفية، لا تبعية، لا فساد ولا محسوبية. هيدي أسس الدولة، وأهمها المحاسبة والشفافية. حتى الشعب يعيش بكرامة، حتى الشعب يعيش بكرامة بوطنه، يبقى حتى العلم اللبناني بس يرفرف ويعلى. على قلب واحد وإيد وحدة رح نبقى، على قلب واحد وإيد وحدة رح نبقى، وصوت الحق صوت الشعب حيكون الأعلى. الثورة رح تنتصر والروح فدا وطني الأغلى. شكرا. شكرا على الاستضافة.
Yeah, so we were going to end with a song, but let me see if anybody has any questions. Not just for me. Let's take advantage of the guys who are really doing it. Who has any questions? إذا بدك بالعربي إيزابيل معيش مترجم. Si vous voulez en français, voilà, Julien peut traduire. أنت تتكلم كم لغة؟ ألمان 4 5 I'm trying to find other languages. All right, yalla. Oh, yes.
I have a question regarding the demands after the resignation of Saad. What are the new demands of the people in the street after the resignation?
Yeah, so, I mean, in terms of a new constitution, I think we cannot, like, I'm just going to give my opinion and I'm going to turn it over to Jeff. But as somebody who has lived for many decades in and out of Lebanon, the idea of rewriting a constitution is very, like, you have to go back to the root, you know what I'm saying? So, yes, everybody wants a new constitution, but you cannot have that gap too much. You know, you want to get rid of people, but you don't want to get rid of order in the sense of, you don't want to be in this vacuum where it very quickly could escalate into something else with the, you know, the outside powers, and some of which are also, you know, infiltrated from inside and have infiltrated from inside. So I think, you know, the Taghyir al-Dustur is the ultimate goal, but I think people are realistic. It's not going to happen overnight. And of course, I mean, you know, the idea is also the garbage crisis, all this, you know, and the corruption and the return of this money. Where did it go? We want, انت استعملت الكلمة بشعرك, transparency, right?
محاسبة.
Accountability. Jeff, from your point of view, with all the people you know from, you know, the younger generation in Lebanon, when you ask them that very important question, what do they say?
I think generally most people talk about the fact that this whole thing, this whole revolution started from a non-centralized aspect. So there's no like one sort of big organizing committee who's there and like being like, oh yeah, that's what we're gonna do and whatever. So now what's been happening, I feel like in the past few, in the second part maybe of the revolution, is people in the streets are going more into like discussion groups, debates. Let's brainstorm what are the things we can do. There have been a few demands that have come out in terms of like the immediate next steps. So one was the government to resign. Two is how can we appoint a technocrat government that's going to be, sort of a transitional government that will be not made up of people from these political parties, and then from there we go on to sort of revise the law, the electoral law, and then hold elections, and that's sort of the more immediate steps, and then longer term plan. And then I think in general right now that's, I feel, where this sort of movement is going in terms of where are we going next, and how can we make sure that we get what we want in terms of accountability, of course, and making sure that all these leaders who have stolen and have done horrible things for the country are going to actually get. But
your generation is doing something that I mean, as much as my generation hated the Civil War and we learned from it supposedly, I still have people in my generation that, like the second question they asked me, Ramzi Salti, from Lebanon, من وين? And technically, you know, I mean, I have a Jordanian citizenship, but I'm born and raised in Lebanon. Am I really Lebanese? You know, and none of that now matters. It's like we're all citizens of that country. We love it, and you know. So Haide, I think this is going to be the driving force. It may sound like a romantic notion. I'm a hippie person. I was, you know, the 60s is what made me. I'm seeing that Lebanese style.
I have a question.
All these years later. إيه تفضل بالعربي ولا بالإنجليزي؟
بالإنجليزي.
تفضل.
You know, all the way up to the beginning of the protests, there have been a lot of really hateful rhetoric coming from all the typical politicians that I'm sure you know. And I've been really surprised, pleasantly surprised to see, at least from what I've seen, which is kind of, you know, a siloed version of it all, but on social media I've not seen that kind of anti-refugee rhetoric that I might have expected from a very large protest in Lebanon.
Were you there, Julian, when this started? No, you had already come back. Yeah, and Julian was there, what, a year?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was there a whole year. I mean, I think I'm sure the kids are going to answer your question. But I would add, did you feel this was coming?
I was there in August. I felt it.
Hassan?
Yeah.
Even in August?
In August, yes.
And I'm
It's
you know,
funny
I
because
did not expect this to happen like this quick. Like, I did not. I thought,
in the cabs, in the cabs, I could see people that are just reached the limit, you know, like they're at the tipping point.
And then people of all you know, classes, all religions, all
So can I say something? So I'm Lebanese. I was born during the war, grew up during all the war in Lebanon. I only left when the civil war ended, but I felt like it never really ended, right? So I left to Italy and France and turned around to the world. I always have very deep love to my country, of course, but a lot of my generation left, but half of my family is still there. So I'm from Tripoli, from this family named Mustafa, that people will ask, so which Mustafa are you? They want to know if you are Shia or Sunna. And we were always faced by this question, but in my family, guess what? We have all the communities. Everyone is in my family, everyone, even the Druze, we got one. So I think that's what my family is what Lebanon meant to me. And what I feel like I'm Mirna the Lebanese, I don't want to say my last name, but the cousin, what I want to say, the cousins that stayed there thinking about the revolution, I felt like there is no hope. The Lebanese will keep saying there is hope. The cousins stay there, they are very well established, they teach in very best universities, very well established, and they are really activists. And they are married between Muslim and themselves, the second generation also, we have a lot of
That's
communities.
another issue, is the marriage between the
mixed
different
They mix
religions.
marriage and they don't have, the religion is not their obstacle, comme on dit en français. It's just really, I saw them on the street always. They are on the street now, they are singing, they are from my aunt, 87, to my little cousins, they are all on the street. And this time, I think we really have hope.
Hey,
We
this
really
is,
have hope. There is a few white.
even if somebody who's here tells you since the Civil War ended, it
We
we
really
never
have.
felt
This time
the hope
it's
again.
real.
Yeah.
It was
Movement
like,
is real.
contain.
Yeah.
And now, Silas, تفضل.
If I just have the chance to answer your
Please,
question.
Julia.
Thank you so much for bringing up the refugees.
Yeah.
Surprisingly enough, there was one of the marches during these protests was dedicated for the refugees. People were welcoming the refugees. People were asking for the rights of the refugees. But interestingly enough, the major party, which is the party of the president, is the main party that has the anti-refugee rhetoric, the Trumpist rhetoric. And now that they are trying to find, the conspiracy theories to discredit the revolutions. If you remember the footage you saw in Tripoli, it was a massive number of people.
Right.
Now this party is saying that these are not Lebanese people, these are the refugees, and you are paying them to go and protest. So the hateful messages are still there, but it's important to acknowledge that on the streets, a lot of people are chanting for the refugees and for the inclusion and the rights of the refugees.
And also, can you explain the kullun yani kullun, because a lot of people ask me how you would translate that.
I think we have to
into-
explain to some people back home as well, but kullun yani means all of them, means all of them, or y'all means y'all.
But who's the them?
Them is the facade of the system in Lebanon has been the same ever since the civil war started, not since it ended, and it's been inherited. Like positions in government would be inherited from father to child.
Nepotism.
Right, absolutely. So when they say kullun yani kullun, all of them means all of them. It means no exceptions.
Right, but it's meaning we want to get rid of them all.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I left
Yes,
Lebanon in
yes.
1976, and
too.
Berri was the prime minister.
He's still.
By the way, we left the same year أنا وأنت. شوف رجعنا تلاقينا هون عشان الشباب اللي يعطونا أمل. Also, I like another way of thinking of kullun yani kullun is also like don't exclude anyone from Lebanese society from inside, and that includes, for example, I think obviously women, but also there was these disturbing reports from some of the right-wing Lebanese state about LGBT groups are infiltrating as if the evil is coming. But kullun yani kullun also applies to the people, and that implies kullun all colors, all creeds, all sexual orientations, etc. I think that it's been nice to see women, and I think I even saw the rainbow flag the other day flying. Last time they did that in Egypt, they addressed it to everybody at the Mashrou Leila concert.
Kullun yani kullun, everybody is included in this revolution.
Right.
All people, all citizens, they are the same first, especially women. Second, kullun yani kullun, when it comes to muhasabah, nobody is above the law. Kullun under the law, وكلهم لازم يتحاسبوا على stolen money. If they're innocent, they'll release them. If they're not, they have to be punished, to send to jail, and to get the money back. This is the people's
It
money.
applies to
The
us
citizen
and
money.
and the people.
It's not their money. You know, they came, when they came to the, like Sultan, they were poor people, and then all of a sudden they become not millionaires, billionaires with B. So this money is for, the Lebanese people money, it's not
I
their money.
hope they find that.
They didn't inherit it, they stole it. They're thieves and corrupted to the
I keep
core.
hoping we're
To
gonna
the
find
core.
the trail somewhere somehow. Anyway, so Juliet, شكرا حبيبي على السؤال الحلو لأنه bringing in refugees is really important, and for those who don't know, you know, I mean, millions of Syrian refugees coming in. Before that, the Palestinian refugees, you know, which, and like, you know, how much can this little country absorb? So
The
people would
Armenians.
play on that. The genocide. But people would play on that to make the refugee be the evil. He's the cause of all your problems. And but no, the problems were there before Syria. You know, it's just anyway. So I'm glad to see people aren't buying into that. They're seeing the image and they're not being. Their heads aren't being as easily manipulated. خليكن هيك مش تكبروا وتهدوا. Any other questions? طيب مايا بدك تسألي سؤال؟ By the way, Maya Salame, and she doesn't like me to brag, has a book of poetry coming out. She writes in English, but then it's got the Arabic bite to it, and she is amazing, and we love you, Maya. And to everybody who slept over here at this hour, I love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's end with Li Beirut, but not by Fayrouz. This new version, you saw it because the young lady translated it. Anyway, Zamafia? This video is going to, being on the radio show, I've got this about 1,000 emails. Have you seen this? I think people are excited that there's English and Arabic lyrics here. So, play Li Beirut as we finish. And shukran to everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
As a token of my appreciation for